Don't give up, and learn what my mum told me. There's no such word as can't.
So welcome to this episode of Finding Your Range with me, Jeannie Devon, a movement therapist who specialises in hypermobility, EDS and chronic pain. And today I'm delighted to be joined by our expert guest speaker and expert patient, Simon Burnham. So welcome, Simon. Thank you for joining us. And
Thank you for having me.
I know, it's our pleasure. So I'm just going to read Simon's bio, and then we're going to get started and get chatting to Simon. So Simon is 41 years of age and he lives in Devon. So for those of our listeners who are maybe not in the UK, Devon is down in the south of the UK, and it's a beautiful part of the country, some beautiful beaches and scenery. So his interests are bodyboarding, snorkelling, and anything in the ocean. So there you go. He's got access to this beautiful part of the country. It's nothing like London at all, which is all buildings. And so as a child, Simon spent a lot of time in Great Ormand Street Hospital in London, having tests, and he received his Eds diagnosis in his early teens. And he is the men's group coordinator for Eds Uk, and he runs men's support groups here in the UK. So welcome again, Simon. Thank you so much for joining us. And, you know, this podcast is called Finding Your Range, but it's also uncovering the truth about living with EDS, hypermobility, and any kind of chronic illness, really. And, you know, we started chatting about this, and I was really keen to have you come speak to us, because obviously hearing a man's perspective of what it's like to live with this. So can you tell us about your childhood? Obviously we've mentioned that you spent time in Great Ormand Street. How did your EDS start to manifest itself when you were young?
Well, it's actually a funny one, Jeannie. I actually, from birth, from the get-go, I had a really bad birth. I was in hospital for a long time when I was a baby. I was actually born in South Africa, enough. Born in Johannesburg, moved to England. I had really bad bowel problems as a child, like could not go to the toilet. It was one of those things. Mm-hmm. And when I was about 5 or 6, my kneecaps started to pop out of a joint. So both of them would just pop out. And it just went going on and on. And I just couldn't go to school because my knees would just literally just pop out all the time. And it wouldn't just like literally, literally the kneecaps would just fall off to the other side of my knee.
Wow, so very severe dislocations.
It was horrendous, and I couldn't write. My hand, my fingers were just so sore, so I could not write. Yeah. Doctors, physio every week. It was my poor physio. When I was growing up, she used to sellotape my kneecap while trying to do exercises because it would literally fall off to the side.
Wow.
So it was. Do you know what? It was a weird one for school and all that stuff. It was. I didn't get on with school, because I was never there. So it was horrendous. Spent a long time at Great Ormand Street. This was back in the late 80s, so it wasn't a nice time for me. It was literally prodding and testing and needles in me. I had a lumbar puncture. I had a muscle. Is it a muscle? When they took that muscle out. Yeah. And even then, they didn't know what the problem was.
Okay, so we hadn't got your EDS diagnosis by then.
No, not at all. No, not at all. Okay. So in the end, my kneecap was coming out of joint so much, the physio was like, well, we need to do something because otherwise you're going to be in a wheelchair. So we went to a private hospital and had a knee operation on my left knee. Okay. The doctor did say when he did operate that kneecap was so bad, it literally just sort of fell out when they opened it out. It tightened up, so they tightened the ligaments up. Yes. Back to physio again. The operation does work. It did work. But when the kneecap did come out of joint, it really hurt. Where before it was so loose,
it didn't hurt.
Didn't hurt. No.
Yes.
And back then, EDS wasn't even a thing. Like no one knew about it. It was one of those things. So I was literally told to swim, swim, and just swim. And if I'm telling you now, Jeannie, if it wasn't for my swimming, I think I'd be in a lot worse place. Okay. And eventually I got diagnosed maybe when I was about 11 or 12 by back then Dr. Turnpenny. Okay. It was EDS 3, was it?
Yes, EDS 3 back then, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and classical.
Okay.
And it was a bit of a hallelujah moment, to be honest with you, because for me it was like, thank God I now know what this thing is.
Yes. God, it must have been quite lonely because I guess there weren't many people around. There were no support groups or anything.
There wasn't. I mean, and this is the thing. When I was at Great Ormand Street, and when Tenpenny did diagnose me, officially, that's just what they told me. This is probably not right, but they officially told me that I was like the 5th ever person to be officially diagnosed in the UK with it.
Wow.
Yes, I don't know if but that's what they told me. So there was nothing out there at all. Like, obviously back then there was no internet.
Yeah, so you couldn't research it.
No. Nothing. So the GP went back to GP. He actually found one of his old books. He dusted it off, and he found it. like you know,
but there's a little paragraph about
it.
Yeah,
like a little thing like that. I remember thinking, well, what do we do? And I literally just didn't know what to do, and I just carried on swimming. That's what I did. Because again, back then it was one of those. Well, let's build up your muscles.
Yes.
Because obviously my knees is literally are like sticks. There's nothing there. So we need to build the muscles around the joints.
Yes.
Well, I think it's a bit changed now, isn't it? Where they say don't work on it so much. Where I come from an era where no, you've got to get working to get it working.
Yeah, you got to kind of. I guess they were saying back then, push through it, and you know.
Yeah, and I sort of believe that nowish a little bit, but not through the pain bit where it was back then.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, the school was okay. Secondary school was quite hard, Jenny, because I couldn't do sport.
Yeah.
So instead, I was doing like weights. So everyone was doing like cross country.
That's a good one, yeah. Getting out of cross country. There you go.
Yeah. And I was just doing weights to build up the muscles.
Yeah.
Or I'd be
that's
down.
Good.
Yeah, no, and I think that sort of helped me along, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
And yeah, things did pop out of joint. Like kneecaps would pop out of joint all the time. But I think because I was diagnosed at such a young age, it was my normal.
Yes.
So it wasn't, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So your education about EDS and what it was and how, I guess back then there wasn't anything that said this is how you manage this. You were literally,
nothing whatsoever.
It was trial and error.
It was trial and error. So basically, I'm from a little village in Devon, which is right on the beach. So all my friends and everyone was surfing.
Yes.
So I thought, right, let's start surfing, which I loved. But the problem is, as I got up, my kneecaps would pop out of joint.
Yeah.
Then I started bodyboarding.
Okay, so for those. So can you tell us what that is? Because some of us will be like, what's that?
Yeah, so bodyboarding is like, it's basically, how can I say it, lying on a board with flippers, catching the same bigger waves.
But you don't have to stand up.
No, so we use flippers, which was good for me because I could build up my knee muscles.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was saying snorkelling, we're doing a lot of snorkeling, swimming.
Fantastic.
And for me, well, the thing is for me, being in the water, my body actually was normal. I felt normal.
Yeah.
Because standing up was just painful. Sitting down was painful. So the only time I actually could feel normal was being in the water.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you didn't have gravity sort of pulling on those joints.
Yeah, and it still works for me now.
Yeah. And you've kept it on until you still do it now, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, the issue I had when we had the first lockdown, and when the little swimming pools were closed, and we couldn't go to the beaches, and I saw how my EDS deteriorated so quickly.
Right.
Because I wasn't doing those exercises.
Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing which we know is true with EDS, is that as soon as we stop doing our exercises, whatever that is, because everyone's got different ways of exercising, we do deteriorate much quicker than other people.
Yeah, and I phoned up the GP, like sort of saying, please help me, what can I do? Because I could see my kneecaps were just getting worse and there's nothing I could do. So as soon as they said, you can go to the beach, I was down there like a...
Excellent. So that's really, so exercise clearly plays a big part in your life and your rehab.
It's not just that; it's mental state as well. Yeah, there is scientific proof to say that salt water. There's that joke. I call it vitamin C. I really need a dose of vitamin C, as in the C. Yeah, because I really think that salt water I think it's an absolutely magical cure. The ocean, I think the ocean just helps out so much.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why I live here.
Yeah, well, it's a great choice, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but your other passion, which we haven't mentioned, is flying.
Yeah.
And you were desperate to be a pilot, weren't you, when you were growing up?
Yeah, I was one of those kids that used to stand at the end of the runway with a pair of binoculars and a notepad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Looking at the planes. Oh.
Yeah, well, you can't even notice, can you? I've got like, have you not seen my seats?
I wondered what they were. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're actually from the old, they're from the British Airways 747s. They've just retired.
Oh,
so I managed to get around seats in the window for it.
Oh my God, I didn't notice the window. Oh, there you go. So that's a real passion. So for those of you who are listening,
it's a passion, yeah.
It's a passion. So anyone who's not watching YouTube and is listening to this, Simon has behind him, is it 3 or 2? 3 airline seats and a window from the airplane on the side. So you could sit there and actually pretend you're in the airplane.
It's my man cave.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
oh, fantastic.
So basically, yeah, I was one of those guys, but I knew I wanted to fly, but it was one of those, back in those days, it was, you went to the careers guide, didn't you, at school?
Yeah, yeah.
You remember them, and they'll write down what you want to be. So I put down, I like the water. What they came out with is a plumber.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I wanted to be a pilot. That's what I wanted to do. I left school. And bear in mind, I haven't said this about my EDS. I'm almost dyslexic, so I've got learning difficulties.
Right.
So then it was like, no, this is a high rate university thing. So anyway, I left school, did a couple of little jobs, which I wasn't really happy with. I still want to be a pilot.
Yes.
I got a birthday present to have a flying lesson in Plymouth, where I'm from.
Yeah.
I loved it, and I did get my license. I worked hard. So we have to have medicals every year.
Yes.
The medicals aren't running. So there's nothing running. It's literally hearing, eyes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was really easy.
Yes.
So I got my license, and then I actually moved to South Africa.
Right.
And I flew in South Africa for a few years.
Oh, fantastic.
And I seriously, again, I think the warm weather out there did me a lot of favours.
Yes.
I really, again, the warm water, because I was based in Devon. So I think, again, it's the warm.
Yeah.
So now I'm instructing at a Boeing simulator place in Cheltenham.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing now.
Okay, so you've taken your passion, and so that's your work now?
Yeah, that's my work. Yeah, so no, I teach people in a simulator, which
that's brilliant.
Really enjoy. Yeah,
brilliant. So it wasn't an easy journey, was it? To become
not at all. Do you know what? Nothing's easy, is it? To be honest with you. To be fair, my mum was probably a rock. She always still put in me. There's no such word as can't.
Mm-hmm. Despite anything,
and even my physio Margaret, I think I literally owe everything to her, because she was through everything with me, through the knees, my fingers, through my operation, everything. And she said the same, you can do this, and I'm quite stubborn, so if I want to do it, I will do it anyway. And I worked hard. I got my medical in the end, which I was really happy with. I was very nervous about getting it, but I've got it.
Sure. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I think one thing we can say about people with EDS is that they're definitely resilient, because I think we have to be a lot of the time.
I think that, again, it's an invisible illness, isn't it? We don't look disabled, so we've got to prove ourselves type thing. I think that's probably what it is. Yeah. I've worked pretty hard, to be honest with you. Yeah. A little bit tired.
Yeah. But there are going to be people listening, and maybe, parents with children as well, who are listening and going through similar things right now with their children. What's your message for anyone who's inspired by your story, your personal journey to doing what you want to do?
Jeannie, don't give up. Don't give up, and learn what my mom told me. There's no such word as can't. Yeah. It's funny, actually. So when I came back from South Africa, I sort of forgot about my disability for a while. I sort of got on with life.
Yes.
And then when I moved back to England, I realised, there's a charity group. There's forums. Yeah. My God, there's other people like me. Is that right? But the issue I had was when I did tell my story to people who've just been diagnosed, there's quite a backlash. They're saying, well, you've got mild EDS. I'm like, no, I haven't. I've just managed my EDS. So it's quite, it's been quite a tough one actually for me to prove that I've got this condition actually.
Yeah. And it's sad, isn't it, that we have to prove anything, you know?
Well, yeah, and that is sad. You know, like I've worked hard to be where I am now, like really hard. I've noticed also a lot of people who've been diagnosed with EDS get it later on in life.
Yes. Oh, many, yes, absolutely.
And I feel really sorry for them, because imagine being all of a sudden like, oh, what's this? Where I've grown up with it, so it's my normal. Yeah. You know, it can come out of the blue for so many people. I see a lot of people in their 40s, 50s, just they've had all these symptoms, me included. I mean, it took me 35 years to get my diagnosis. I was, you know, it was 3 years ago now I got my diagnosis, and my symptoms started when I was 12. But, you know, it's like, wow, what is this thing? I was fine. I was doing exercise. I was doing whatever I wanted. And then something happens and boom, this thing kind of implodes. Yeah. And it's like, what am I dealing with? So yeah, it's can be really challenging, but. Yeah, and that's what I do feel. Actually, my sister was the same. She was diagnosed later on in life.
Right.
But I think because she saw me, she also knew how to deal with it.
Yeah.
But it's funny, I went to see not a rheumatologist, I went to see a doctor, and he asked me a question. He said, so how often are you in pain? And you know what? I couldn't answer, because my pain is normal.
Yeah.
I'm always in pain. Do you know what I mean? It was quite a hard question to answer, because it's just like, well, when am I not?
Yes.
That should be the answer. Do you know what I mean? When am I not in pain? Like, and that's, but things have moved on. Like since I was, you know, long last diagnosed back then. Right. So I was now married. We went to see him. I look taller and a bit fatter. He's looking a bit older. But my wife, bless her, she had a list of all the things that's wrong with me. Right. A list, a long list. And we sat down, and he actually said to me, he said, I think the problem is that you've been away from us for so long that you need a full MOT.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, I've just got on my life, and I haven't really dealt with these issues.
Yes.
So yeah, I've now got a list of doctors and things I have to see now, which wasn't available for me
back then. Yeah.
So like back then.
Things have moved on then. In a lot of regards.
EDS and gastro wasn't attached at all back then. They're like, well, it's like, why has Simon got a bad bowel when he's? But now it's like, right, okay, so and that's great for me, because now I'm thinking, now I can sort this out.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, a long list of things I will do.
Yeah, brilliant. No, I think, you know, your attitude as well. You know, so many people could have been, you know, what's the word? Not put down, but, you know, demotivated and, you know, down by having this since a young child, having this, but I've
dealt with it. Like the thing is,
and you've pushed through, and you've achieved what you want to do.
Jeannie, the thing is, we've got this condition, we've got it. Okay. Yeah. For me, there's no going, oh well, no, I've got to deal with it. There's no point in sitting there going, oh well, you know, I'm just going to, like, you know, lock myself in a room all day. I've got it. Yeah. Now I'm also I'm a member of a charity in Basingstoke called Airability, which is actually a disabled flying school.
Right. Okay.
And my friend Damien, who's got cerebral palsy.
Yes.
He's such a lovely guy, Damien. I met him in South Africa, and everyone in South Africa was saying he'll never be a pilot because he's got cerebral palsy. So anyway, I told him to come to England. He's joined this flying club, and now he's a pilot.
Wow.
So
what a story. Amazing.
I know, and and I just think, you know, if you really look, I know people have got some EDS are really bad and whatever. Look, I have to say that my EDS was quite bad when I was young. It was really bad. And I had to deal with it. I had to.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, because back then there was no
support
about it. So I had to deal with it. And I do get a few people come up to me and saying, well, you must have a mild EDS, you know, as I said before, we must have a mild EDS, so you can't have a bad one. I'm like, well, it's my normal.
Yeah. But I think And I think, you know, a lot of what you've mentioned, which is great, is that exercise, you finding something you're passionate about has really helped manage your symptoms.
100%. Now, if it wasn't for my swimming and my surfing, I guarantee it, I'll be in a lot worse state now.
Yeah.
100%.
That's brilliant.
And oddly enough, I met another girl who's got EDS on Instagram who does weight training. Which is, I forgot her name now, but she's great. And and also
there's so many inspiring people out there.
Yeah, and like, oddly enough, I was speaking to her about it, and she was like saying she has the same problem with people sort of like saying, well, you must not have the EDS because you can do that.
Yeah.
Well, I can't. It's just we manage around our problems.
Yes.
Like I can't walk far. Like that's my issue. I can't walk.
Right.
Like I have a blue badge.
Yeah.
I don't like using it. It's quite embarrassing. I should do.
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean? I think, yeah.
Yeah.
There's also being a bloke as well.
Well, coming on to that, being a man, you know, as we know, a lot of people with EDS tend to be on the women. Yeah. So what is life like for a man with EDS, and, you know, what support, advice can you give to other men who are listening to this?
Now, this is hard. Again, because I thought I was sort of one of the only men with this condition. I didn't realise there's other men like it.
Yes.
Until I met the men's group on Facebook.
Yes.
Me and the wife, we had quite arguments about this. And it's not the joints that sort of, you know, get me down. It's actually my fatigue. Like my tiredness. I'm always tired, and it just drains me. So like if a wife wants to help with something, I'm physically, I feel like I've just, like a tap's gone off and I'm just drained of everything.
Yes, yes.
As a bloke, and that's the thing, no, as a bloke, you want to go and do these things, like do DIY and do heavy lifting or build a shed or do a garden, and you just physically can't.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to see my wife, who's a secondary school teacher, come back from school and having to do the dishes and the garden. Like it's, as a man, look, she says we're in the 21st century now, like, you know, things should move on. But that's all well and good. But you still have those man things where you want to be a man and you want to do these things.
Of course, yeah.
And I think that's
normal. I think it's normal. You know, it's in our sort of genes, isn't it? That's what we're programmed to do.
And I think you keep saying, "Oh, we're in the 21st century now," but you know, we're men. That's what we've got to do. We've got to go and do the heavy lifting and.
Yeah, no, seriously, I think that's part of, you know, our makeup. You know. Yeah. And but I can totally hear what you're saying. It must be hard because you feel like you're not fulfilling that, or you're letting someone down because you feel that should be your job. That's your role in the family.
I mean, like, for example, like, I've had to cut down on work now. I used to do 5 days a week. I do 3 days a week now because by the time I got home, I was so tired.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I need to cut down because the only time I can see the wife is the weekends. And I thought, I'm not going to sleep the whole weekend. So I had to cut down. It's little things like that where now she earns more money than I do. So I stay at home. Again, we're in the 21st century, but as a man, you still want to be bringing home the bacon.
Yes, sure.
And it's quite upsetting, actually. Yeah, I mean, we have quite a few little tiffs about stuff like that, but yeah. So it's because oddly enough, my wife has been so supportive of me. She's been brilliant, like 100%. She's helped me with my PIP forms. My mother-in-law, she used to work for Citizens of Ice. So she's helped me out fill out all the forms because I never, ever claimed disability allowance. I didn't agree with it. So until I thought, do you know what? I should really sort this out. So she helped me out with the forms and stuff like that. Yeah. And this is the funny one, Jeannie, this is the weirdest one. So my brother-in-law and his wife have got 2 children, Holly and Noah. So I was picked up Holly once and I said, she's not blood relative or anything, Jeannie, not blood relative. Mm-hmm. I looked at her and I held her hand once and said, do you know what? I think she's got EDS. Yeah, she was diagnosed with 6 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not blood relative or anything, because I recognise it straight away.
Yeah, you do, don't you?
Yeah, so bless her. Yeah, you can see it, can't you? Yeah.
And you feel it. You feel it in the skin. You
Yeah,
can
you know, when I used to hold her hand, you could feel her wrists sort of like clicking.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm sure she's got EDS. So yeah, me and her, she calls me my uncle. I'm specialist. We're specialists.
Oh.
So yeah, it's been actually really quite nice because I went to her school to explain to her teachers about EDS.
What it is.
Like
That's great.
So I'm the yeah.
And I think, you know, thank you so much for sharing what you just did about, you know, what it's like being, you know, in our society where we're all put in boxes and, you know, men should do this and women should do it. It still happens, right? I'm not saying it's right, but it must be very hard. And that's actually one aspect I've never even thought about is, so thank you for sharing that.
No, it is. It's hard. Like, I look on social media a lot and they're great. There's lots of EDS stories on there, but they're all women. They're all girls. And even the charities, most of the stories they produce are women and girls. I don't know what is it with the men who have EDS. Are they embarrassed? I'm not embarrassed by it. Like it's what I am. You know what I mean? Sometimes I feel that men might be a bit too embarrassed. They've got it. Yeah.
Well, maybe for the reasons you've highlighted, you know, maybe you're going to help them come forward and start talking about it more.
Well, I'm not afraid of it. It is what it is. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. It is what it is. And, you know, and is that what led you to start to work with Eds UK, which is a charity in the UK?
100%.
And form a men's support group and be the men's coordinator. So what do you do there? What does that involve?
Basically, there's a role that they advertised. So yeah, I approached them along with two other guys, Lee and Scott.
Yes.
Lee and Scott are newly diagnosed. They've just been diagnosed. So yeah, I approached them and said, look, I've been diagnosed with this most of my life.
Yes.
I think I can bring something to the table. And yeah, we've joined. So there was always a men's Facebook group. There was always one.
Right.
I don't think it was that active.
Right.
But we've come on there and said, right, let's go do Zoom meetings every month to talk to the guys.
Yeah.
I just think we need to talk to each other about stuff like this.
Yes.
And it was really interesting. It's the first sort of couple of group meetings we had. There's only like sort of 5 or 6 people. But the last one we had 16 guys.
Wow. That's
and
brilliant.
It was absolutely brilliant. And in fact, one of them was one of your guys, actually, Jeannie.
Ah, one of my clients.
One of your clients, yeah. And he said something. He said, what really helped was breathing techniques he gave him.
Yes. Oh yeah, breathing. You know, for so many reasons: anxiety, stress,
100%,
releasing tension from the body, noticing you have tension in your body. All of that it's my number one go-to.
Yeah, and he says as soon as he gave him that, he says he was like a changed man.
Oh wow! Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and we arranged from young guys. All the way up to like elderly gentlemen.
Wow.
But what is funny?
Valuable.
Yeah, it is. It's quite funny because we're like blokes. We just moan. So the whole thing is just like us going, oh God, you know, what do you have to do this? It's brilliant. It's good for me as well because I've always thought I was the only one.
Yeah.
And now to talk to other guys who've got this same problems that I have. You know, like the heavy lifting, you know, it's embarrassing that we have to go to the shops and we can't lift stuff up into the cake. It's all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it all boils down to the same thing, fatigue. It's always the same sort of thing, but we feel absolutely drained.
Is that a common thing? Is that a lot of what people were saying in the group?
Yeah, it is. Like not just that, because I also run the Devon group as well, the Devon group as well. And it's the same thing. It's the fatigue that gets me. Everyone else as well. Oh. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Again, I remember being tired when I was a kid, but again, EDS and fatigue wasn't connected at all.
Sure. Yeah.
And even now, I think, you know, back then when I had learning difficulties, they say that EDS and learning difficulties are now connected.
Yes. That's a new thing, isn't it? That's coming out with autism as well.
Autism, yeah. So yeah, we've got a few guys who are also autistic, and it's really good for me to talk to people with the same condition.
Yeah. And you're giving them such a valuable service as well, because
I hope I am. I hope I am. Yeah, again, it might get frustrating for them to look at me and go, well, like he's managed to get on with his life, but I've just been diagnosed. It's going to take me a long time. But I want to show people, especially teenagers. This is what I really want to do, Jeannie. Is young teenagers, male, female, whatever. There's no such word as can't.
Brilliant.
And that's what I want. You know, if you want to do something, do it. And I remember my physio being, pardon my French, blimmin' painful. It was horrendous. But I had to get through that pain to be where I am now.
Yeah.
Like it was a horrible time of year for me. Like my mother will tell you, she said she used to take me to physios all the time. It was horrendous. But looking back at it now, if it wasn't that bad, I don't think I'd be where I am now.
Yeah.
No. And that's what I really want to show to people. Like, if you want to work at something, if you truly want to do something, you can do it.
Oh, that's so powerful. That's brilliant.
Yeah, like my EDS now is like I'm 41 now, and my EDS is bad now. Like I said, kneecaps are now really stiff, so everything's now turned the opposite way. So everything was loose, now it's pretty stiff. And
yes,
oddly enough, I've just got a mobility car, which has helped me, Jeannie, so much. Because before I had an automatic, and it was painful for me. Like going to work was just painful, and even that little thing has helped me out so much.
Yeah.
What you've got to do is find things to help you out.
Yeah, I was going to say, basically, you've got to get creative. You've got to look. Don't accept what you've been told. Go and look and find things.
That's what you've got to do. You can't. It's funny because I've had a lot of people say, "Oh no, what am I doing about EDS? This is like the end of everything." Well, actually, it's not. Like for me, having a diagnosis, like okay, now I've got this. What can I do now to get around this?
Exactly. And Totally agree.
And I think that's what you've got to do, because otherwise you're just going to sit in your room and go and woe's me all the time. And you can't do that, because if you do that, your muscles will start fading away.
Yeah.
So you've got to find ways. They're like Pilates. Pilates is great. That's well, we know what you do. It's that inner core strength is what you need to get you up.
Yeah. And everyone will have their own way of doing it. You love swimming, you love bodyboarding. For me, it's movement, of Pilates, different, but it works for me. And people listening, there will be something out there that works for you. And I know, a lot of people try exercise and they say it doesn't work for me, it made me worse. But I always say, it's the approach that we have to exercise.
Do you know what, Jeannie? That's actually a very good point. It's the approach.
It's the approach, if we're forced to do something and our body's not ready, or maybe we're fearful and we're worried, then probably it's not going to work out quite so well. But I think what you said about this determination, I think your determination, your drive.
It's the mind. It's all in the mind.
Exactly.
It's that right there.
Absolutely. And that's what's powering you forward. You can achieve anything, can't you, with the right mindset?
If you get that sorted out, then you'll be able to do anything. And I say that now all the time, But looking back at it now, when I was a kid, God, the amount of pain I used to be in all the time, it was draining. Going to school, even sitting down on my school chair, my knees would pop out of joint. It's just little things like this. I couldn't write, so I had to have a little laptop because I couldn't write. My fingers popping out of joint. And looking back at it, I was thinking, if it wasn't for that swimming and if it wasn't for that my physio and my mother will tell you, I'll be in a lot worse off place now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I just want to get that across, really.
Yeah, so that's your, I wanted to ask you, what would be your number one message for men or women listening right now? What is it?
Don't give up. Simple. Yeah. Don't give up. And there's no such word as can't.
Yeah, fabulous.
My mother always said it, there's no such word as can't. If you can do it, go and do it. If you go swimming, so my swimming pool is the cold water, which is outside, and you've got the inside pool, which is warm water. I love it. It's just warm, and it's you can swim along. The key is, look, I know this was back in the 80s and early 90s, but I'll stand by this. The key is to build the muscles up. Yeah. I don't know what the doctors say now.
Yeah.
But the key is to build the muscles up. Because what you don't want is them to be fading away. Because if they fade away, things will get worse.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not a doctor, but that's what worked for me.
Yeah. And that's what our listeners want to hear, personal stories, because they can relate to that. And so hearing that from you, who obviously had a very difficult childhood, that's going to be really inspiring for them to hear.
Yeah, and listen, I'm getting older now, and things are getting worse. Like my finger, this one popped out during last week, and I can't work as much anymore, but I'm still working around the problems.
Yeah.
And I've got help now, again, because EDS is now known.
Yeah.
So I can now fix this problem, fix that problem, not fix it, but what's the word? Manage. That's the word.
Manage it.
Manage.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially the gastro stuff. The gastro stuff has hindered me so much. And now I'm actually speaking to a gastro doctor who knows EDS. It's like, yes, now I can actually fix it. Because that's the main issues. But yeah, that's my key, is there's no such word as can't.
Brilliant.
That's my mother's.
Thank you. Oh, well, mothers know best.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
They do.
Just a quick one before we finish. My mum will kill me for saying this.
Oh dear, I hope she's not listening.
No, she will. So this is how strong my mum was for me. She took me to all the physios, all the doctors, spent the time with me in Great Ormand Street. She had the bed next to me. It was a horrible time. Yeah. And she knew how much I really disliked hospitals. Really disliked them. So one story was that she said, right, we've got a physio appointment. So she picked me up and we went to the hospital. I was like, well, this is not a physio place. So we sat down on a bed and this nurse came and she said, okay, Simon, are you ready for your operation today? I'm like, what? My mother tricked me into having the operation on my knee. Wow. Because she knew I wouldn't go. But if it wasn't for her doing that, I might have not operation on my knee. Again, I'd be in a worse off place. So listen to your mothers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But that's my key.
Thank you. And how can people who are listening, how can they find out more about what you do? How do they find your group? How could they? So you can find me on the EDS men's group. I think it's just under men and EDS Men's UK. I'm also on EDS UK. That is.
EDS UK, the charity one. Yeah. Yes, if you join our Facebook group, also I'm on Instagram. So if you want to follow my stories on Instagram, under
what's
EDS.
What's your Instagram?
EDS Pilot Simon, if I remember.
So EDS Pilot Simon.
Yeah, I'm on there. Again, what I wanted is loads of Instagrams of EDS women. So I want to have blokes one.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can find me on there. And if you have any questions, just find me on there. More the merrier, for quite honest with you.
Yeah. And your men's group, how often do you meet your men's group?
At the moment, we're doing once a month. But if it's
but
at the moment, if it is getting a bit popular, we're going to make it a bit. Again, it's all up to me and the other guys if we can find time off work. I think that's the.
Yeah.
If we're on lockdown, that's fine. But.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see what happens with lockdown.
Yeah. So any men listening, get in touch with Simon via.
Not just that, even parents. If parents want to talk to me about their teenage kids.
Yeah, I think you might get.
I've been a teenager with EDS. I know what it's like. And I've been through it, and I've come out the other end. Yeah,
I'm sure there are lots of parents listening. As I say, I hear from lots of parents who children have just been diagnosed, or so I'm sure there are people listening to your story who can really relate to that. So you might be getting some messages.
I hope so, because do you know what? I just feel like we just need a story of a bloke out there.
Yeah. Well, you've done that. This is going to be going out.
No, I hope so.
No, absolutely. And brilliant. So thank you so much, Simon.
Absolutely. And, it's been an absolute pleasure.
No, really enjoyed talking to you. And you've really given me something to think about that I didn't, realise before, coming from a man's perspective. So thank you.
Yeah, that's what I want. At the end of the day, it's the 21st century, but blokes are blokes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you. So I hope you enjoyed that episode with our guest, Simon. Leave us a comment, leave us any messages. And if you want to get a message to Simon, feel free to leave a comment and I will pass it on to him. So thank you for listening to Finding Your Range. And until next time, keep moving.